Can you hear me?
Yes, loud
Okay,
and
awesome.
clear.
Awesome. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so
Good.
much for asking.
Yes. And happy new year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well.
So I'm I'm so impressed with your work. I'm like, I can't believe more people aren't asking you to be on their show.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know, it's tough. It's people the people have a they have a lot of cognitive dissonance around Candace. It's kind of hard to watch. People are really not coping with reality well.
I know it's insane. And I feel like a lot of people are on the a lot of them are they kind of know that she's part of the system and she's an elitist herself, but they still make excuses. It's like they're in the middle and they're not ready to cross over yet. So let's dive right into it. And why don't you start telling us who she really is?
Yeah, absolutely. So this isn't really my bag. I kind of cut my teeth in genealogy on the Process Church of the Final Judgment, and in the history of that cult, the Scientology is at the root. So, in order to get to Candace, I've got to go through Scientology first because that's
Perfect.
how I got there. One of my friends had pointed out to me, hey, she's got this really interesting connection to this British Scientologist. I already knew who he was. I had trolled him a bit on X, as I like to do with these people. And when I went and looked, it's fascinating because many people know him. He is one of the biggest promoters of Candace. I think that this speaks to him probably being a handler. This is my opinion based off of their interactions by a man by the name of John Mappin. He is what the church refers to as a whale. This means that he is one of their top donors. So he's basically a pay pig for the church, kind of like Grant Cardone, these characters, stateside, so to speak. And so, as the story goes, they well, as Candace tells it now, even though she just changed her story for, I think, the 15th time a couple of days ago, right after Christmas, the story goes that's most accurate to what John says and to what her husband says is she got a pool to the United Kingdom and she told Charlie, we got to go to the UK. Who does Charlie call? His very dear friend and the lone donor of Turning Point UK. That is Candace's words, the lone donor. John and Irina Mappin, his wife. Now, there's a few reasons why this is controversial. John Mappin is, as of right now, today, this year of our Lord 2026, the only known Scientologist in Epstein's Black Book. I think that this is highly suspicious. Again, I think that this speaks to a handler sort of nature and also possibly an arranged marriage type of situation between her and George. Just their different retellings of how all of this went down. Now, in regards to the Mappins themselves, many people may know who they are because they own King Arthur's castle, Camelot Castle. They fly the QAnon flag above that castle sometimes in homage of Q. And they also use the hotel when it's not operating as a hotel. They use it as a recruiting front for one of Scientology's many cutouts, the Citizens Commission for Human Rights, or CCHR. This has been documented. There's photos, there's testimony. This has been going on there, including crossover into the time of Turning Point UK being founded. So obviously that piqued my interest. I said, okay, well, what's this chick that, if we're all being honest, there's not a lot of ethnic diversity within Scientology. There's skits about it in comedy shows, and if you look into Scientology history, that also rings true. So I'm like, well, what interest would she have with this Scientologist guy, right? And also, what would Charlie be doing hanging out with this guy? Like, Charlie's 31. What is he doing hanging out with this John Mappin guy? Why are they such good friends? And so when I started looking into her story, it was picked myself up by my bootstraps, sort of. I was raised by my grandparents. My parents split up. I was raised in the hood in Stanford, and I'm like, well, that's a red flag. I don't think the Stanford has a red
Yeah.
flag. That was the first thing that I'm like, oh yeah, those streets of Stanford, girl.
Yeah.
you're, you're riding the struggle. And
That's
I
hilarious.
noticed that, like, in all of these different retellings, it was I would see grandpa chime in and I would see dad chime in occasionally, but they had the same name. And I said, well, that's really interesting. So I went and tried to look into her, family tree to see if there was anything there. Because sometimes I don't trust genealogy websites because people will put in the wrong information
Sure.
sometimes. But I went ahead and looked and they hadn't really gotten very far. And it did seem to be the name game with dad and grandpa. And that was the first tell for me that there was something going on there. Because anytime, it should never be that hard to find somebody's parents or grandparents ever.
No. No.
Especially like, I was very nervous because, Robert Lee Owens is, strangely enough, a very common name for bad guys. I didn't want to come out and, falsely appropriate the name to somebody that's not related to her. I'm also not trying to air out like unnecessary dirty laundry. And so I started digging, and eventually what I was able to piece together from what many people know prior to her coming on the scene as what some people would call, excuse my language, like a shit lib, right, with her social autopsy stuff. She had that lawsuit against the Stanford Board of Education. She was like, I think she was a senior in high school or about to be a senior in high school, and her dad won that case. I think they won almost $38,000. Now, that little press campaign, and then we have her going into like the conservative movement campaign where she's like, I'm super edgy and I'm gonna make my parents mad and blow their minds. You get these little tidbits, and I get, a sister's name here, a sister's name here, and then I get dad, I get grandpa, I get dad, I get grandpa. And once you whittle it all down, and I have, because after I correctly identified who her dad was, I did find his Instagram, his social media. He's a typical boomer dad who's very
I
proud of his
saw.
daughters,
Yeah.
which I think is really, I think it speaks to that she's willing to step on necks. I'm not pretending to understand the dynamics in the family, but I mean, she's lied about her past. She's blatantly lied about her
For
past.
sure. I watched everything that you shared, and I sent my audience to your page, and I know a lot of them watched, and it looks like dad's been in the picture and he's been present. Maybe it wasn't the perfect situation, but
Yeah.
it's not like she has a missing deadbeat dad and was only raised by her grandparents. That's obvious.
Yeah, and that's what she makes it seem like. I'm glad that wasn't that was the takeaway, because that was the point I was trying to get across, is like, I'm not saying that relationships aren't complicated.
Sure.
They're absolutely complicated, but the
Sure.
reality is that your parents didn't get divorced until you were almost 30. That doesn't mean your parents were living together, but I know from finding the court records from the Stanford Board of Education lawsuit that your dad was still in the picture. And then I'm going through his social media and photos that grandpa had before grandpa passed away, and your dad was very present and active in your life. And I think it's really weird that a lot of people don't know that her father and her sisters were at her wedding.
Yeah, but the mom wasn't, correct?
Correct. The mom was
So,
not.
okay.
Yeah, mom was not. That's still kind of up in the air. I haven't really come back to it, but I think, in my opinion, based off of all of the information available and the fact that people like, definitely not a Fed limited hangout, Ian Carroll, took hundreds of dollars in super chats, people saying, Rotting Jules, aka Dana Doodah, Dana found this, and Ian saying,
I
"Oh, I'm
saw
gonna
him.
ask her."
I saw him going,
That really was his reaction. He was like, "Oh
He's
no!"
like, oh shit.
He's like, "I regret reading this super chat immediately."
God, that's hilarious. I'll add the clip if I can find it again, or if you have it on your YouTube page. I think you posted the clip,
I
right?
do, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'll
have it on
include it.
YouTube and X. It's
Okay.
Mickey Shaw, thanks for the Huge donation. Ian, I can't say it out because the super chat won't let me, but I was talking about that Sandai Ho OK school. Oh yeah, that one. Candace's father was security at the elementary school on the day of the shooting. Whoa, no way. That sounds hard to believe. Are you serious? I'm gonna ask her about that. That sounds like the kind of thing that would be like a viral, like Instagram, TikTok reel with like nothing behind it, but at the same time, like stranger things have happened. I'm gonna ask her about that. Thanks, Mickey.
So I think it was just honestly an innocent mistake.
No
but I was then like,
way.
Okay, it looked weird that you both posted this, and now it looks like you're kind of coordinating it. And I
That
think
sounds
people
hard to
felt it was
believe.
coordinated
Are you
because it's not a
serious?
natural thing to do. Now, Evan, I would. The reason I say I would separate him is just because, like, he's just lying. Like,
That sounds like the kind of thing that would be like a
this has been
viral,
debunked.
like
It hasn't been
Instagram, TikTok
debunked. He's
reel
like
with like nothing
defending Alex
behind it, but at the
Jones
same
and saying,
time,
"Oh, Alex
stranger
Jones did
things have
say
happened.
that you met your husband through PJW."
Thanks,
I'm like, no, he didn't say that. So he seems like he's being intentionally dishonest about stuff. She kind of just made one statement. Timing was a bit weird. Yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
That made me so annoyed. I'm like, man, Ian, you were really happy to take all that money, weren't you? But
God.
I think the reason why she has obfuscated her past, A, is that it doesn't fit into this sort of pulled herself up by her bootstraps sort of struggle that she naturally came over to conservatism, not because, you know, she's a grifter and she kind of burned everybody with her social autopsy shit lib stuff. It is because her father was, according to his own resume, out of his own mouth, he was the supervisor of the contracts during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. This includes environmental, biohazard, janitorial, cleanup. I mean, everything. And to me, it's so damning in so many ways because, you know, there's an argument to be made that within the Sandy Hook research community over the years, because I think Alex Jones' lawsuit was totally fake. It was a sham. Funny
Yeah.
enough, Scientology helped him out with that too.
And the Mormons have helped him out because I've been doing a long deep dive into the Mormons, and a lot of my audience members have said, "What about Scientology? Now do the Scientology stuff." So I was excited when you were going down that.
Yeah, no, well, and see, like, you'll start to notice a pattern that it's the Mormons and the Scientologists seem to be really chummy. I think it's because they basically have, you know, the same kind of belief system, like alien cargo cult.
Yes.
But in regards to Sandy Hook with the research community, that was a big sticking point, was these contracts, because there was no record of who was doing biohazard cleanup. You know, we know that fire and rescue, that the EMTs, that there were no life-saving measures that were performed at that time. There's so many questions surrounding that. And so to be the supervisor of the contracts during tragic loss of life, that's that man's words. I'm not putting words in his mouth. That is what he said. Now, put that to the side. And then it gets a little bit weirder, because then we have, and this is my favorite angle to look at always, is the legal counsel that is involved in these cases, because I think that it helps kind of give shape to the network, because they know who's going to get them out of trouble or who's going to make things happen for them. We have an individual by the name of Norman Pattis. Norman Pattis has represented the Soccer Mom Madam, the Manhattan Madam. I'm trying to think who else. He's represented a lot of shady people, but he represented Candace and her father in their lawsuit against the Stanford Board of Education, and also represented Alex Jones in his Sandy Hook defamation lawsuit.
I mean, what are the chances of that? Some high school little like fringe case, and then Alex Jones, like something of like that. I mean, those two things. There has to be a connection. There has to be.
I think so. I mean,
there has to be. What are the chances of that?
They lived there for a long time. That's what I'm saying. I don't buy it that Candace's father and Alex Jones have not had conversations over the dinner table about what happened that day. And I think that anybody that is not willing to really press her on that, uh, you're just ignoring reality. And I've lost patience at this point because, it's her fans are really rabid. I've kind of had to deal with a lot of that backlash. I mean, they struck my YouTube channel literally for using Epstein's Black Book, which is on the DOJ website right now, saying that I was using it to harass her, pointing out that Mappin was in the book. And it's
Because
like,
they're on to you. They're on to you catching on. And honestly, somebody was going to eventually find this out. I'm surprised it took as long. And I'm surprised, you're really the first person to expose this, as far as I know.
that's what people tell me because, so
Yeah.
there have been a couple of, really small, and it's unfortunate because I remember a couple of the guys, I used to be subscribed to them and the algorithm unfollowed them or unsubscribed me from them because I don't remember doing it, but they're smaller black conservatives with platforms where they haven't seen a lot of growth and they're like, they would hit me up or tag me and they'd be like, we've been calling Candace out for 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, oh, I remember you. Like, you totally disappeared from my feed. And I'm like, yeah, I can see how pushing against her, is, it doesn't really mix with the algorithm because, and they said too, nobody's been able to really figure that out. Nobody's been able to flesh it out that far. But for me, I did lose sleep because I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. I have to figure it out, and there's nuggets of truth within the story that she tells. Her grandfather was a sharecropper. He did end up buying that property. He seemed like a pretty down to earth guy, from everything that I've read, and definitely a family man. And, he also had some, unpleasant takes about Candace, especially in regards to that shooting in New Zealand. He's like, we didn't raise her like that. She grew up in a white neighborhood in Stamford. And I'm like, thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for saying
Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying what we all suspected.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because in this, timeline of trying to follow everybody around, because it seems that her sisters and her brother's in Illinois. There may be two brothers, but there's definitely one, and he's in Illinois. And mom, they all stayed on the East Coast. Dad comes over to Arizona. And I just think that that's really interesting because dad is really involved in Blexit in Arizona. Officer Tatum, he seems to be within these same circles as, Candace. And so it's how far do the connections run? Did Candace know Erica before Charlie? I don't know. Did Candace's parents know Erica's family before? I have no idea. I mean, again, it's like you said, it's not like he's a deadbeat, he's pretty plugged in. This company that he was working for, where he was the supervisor of contracts, this Bright Horizons Family Solutions, they are FEMA contractors who run daycares and schools for the United Nations, for Lockheed Martin,
God.
DuPont. Like, yeah, I mean, it's the elitist of the elite. And, her whole thing, and it's the thing that really bothers me with all of this revisionist history, because I didn't realize, because I had never looked, that she lied so much about her past. I didn't know. And then when I started looking, I'm like, this hoe is out here lying to everybody. Like, what the hell? Why is nobody saying anything? And this stuff with, her and George, she's married into the peerage now. He's the Honorable George Farmer. She's the Honorable Candace Farmer. She is protected by, technically, an extension, the House of Lords, which is an extension of the house, the royal family. This is all a tight network, and she's a Catholic. That's different over there. She's protected by the Vatican. The idea that any French politician of any level is going to put out a hit on the wife of a member of the House of Lords is a complete joke.
Do you think that the Macrons are in on it too, and that that this is pure theater?
So I'm really mixed on it because I haven't watched any of her stuff, and like I still only take little tidbits. And look, there's a conversation to be had about whether Macron has a, what they got
Ding
between her
dong.
legs. Yeah, exactly. It's like, dude looks like a lady. Fair
Yeah.
enough. But also, she's said a lot of wild stuff, and they do have a decent argument that they can make. And here, I see it on both sides where it's like, would it be easier for them to just like send in a DNA swab or something? Yeah, but if I was them, I'd be like, screw this bitch. I'm not gonna kowtow to her. I'll take it to court. And I think that this is going to ultimately result in, I would like to see it go to court because I'm very interested in her financials because I know that they're going to comb through that. I would love to be able to peel all of that back. But I think that what she's doing now, between Macron and the Kirk thing, is what Alex Jones was sent in to do with Sandy Hook, which is to legislate silence,
Me too.
silence dissent
That's
legally.
that's what I think too.
Yeah. They're
Yep.
going to make it illegal. People have this really strange short-term memory I've noticed lately, especially with Alex chiming in, because I think that the feud between him and Candace is totally fake.
Me
His
too.
reaction is so over the top.
It's so ridiculous.
I'm like, calm down, Alex. It's fine. I think that, you know, with that whole situation, it's like, are they both in on it? I don't really know. It's the thing that nobody knows what happened. This is the issue that I have with all of these people who are out here. And again, hey, everybody needs to make money, right? Like we all got to pay our bills. I'm not knocking that. But in good faith, Sandy Hook, we didn't see what happened that day, right? We saw like the alleged aftermath and the chaos, right? And Alex went full hoaxer. Everything's made up out of a whole cloth. It's all AI, all that nonsense. And I'm not there. And I've watched all the documentaries, so don't tag me, don't email them to me, please. But because I get it, I understand how you could get there. However, just it doesn't track for me. But with Kirk, we saw that with our own eyes, and there's still things that don't comport with reality and what we're told. And you can not trust any of these people and still think that there should be an investigation into the truth. But the reality is that Candace is out here demanding blood samples from everybody, and her fans, and maybe some of them are bots, I don't know. I don't like to resort to everything is botted because I just think that that's a disingenuous take. I think that a lot of people are really gullible to the cult of personality. It's very concerning that people are like, well, just give your alibi, tell us where you were at. We want to see the receipts, we want to see the metadata. And it's like, okay, how about you? How about you tell us where you were at?
She has balls, I think, doing what she's doing and not airing out her dirty laundry. You know what I mean? Like, why are you not coming out about your past when you're digging into other people's?
Because she keeps changing the subject. Like, she moves the goalpost, I mean, I don't like Nick Fuentes, and I think he's closeted, and that's part of a lot of his rage, whatever. But he does make valid points. A broken clock is right twice a day. Now, he has pressed on her recently about the John Mappin thing, which is fascinating to me. I'm not even mad. I'm like, go off, bro. Like, and he's been pushing about the Scientology angle, and she won't touch it. And now she's changed the story to it was, oh, what is his name? Paul, that used to be on Prison Planet with Alex Jones.
Oh,
Paul
the
Watkins.
British guy? The British guy. Yeah.
Paul Watkins. Yeah, now she's saying that it was Paul Watkins that introduced her and George Farmer. So she's
Oh
already
my
changed
God.
her story in like the past week. It's people are sitting here and demanding all of these things. And it's like, guys, they're grooming you into normalizing this from your favorite mouthpiece where you give up all expectation of privacy. To me, this is why I say, like, this is basically the project for a new American cat fight sponsored by Palantir. It's PNAC for the ladies, right? Because we have this like weird cat fight going on where there's definitely something off with Erica. It's been long enough. We can all agree to that. And we've all been patient enough for her to calm down. That hasn't happened. And then we have Candace over here acting like the woman scorned, and I'm like, I just want them to fight, and I want Candace to rip out Erica's weave. I think that would be great. I would pay to watch that. It would be fantastic. But it's like, everybody's like, give us your bank statements. Give us, photos of what you were doing this day and X, Y, and Z. And like, people were talking about hospital records with Erica's mom when Erica's mom was like sick allegedly or something. And I'm just like, guys, put yourself in their shoes. You would not want this. And she kind of did this to the Macrones, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that was sort of a pregame. It was kind of a pregame to it.
Yeah.
To normalize it, right? And now it's like, I'm being persecuted. And it's like, I'm sorry. You have the #1 podcast in the world. You're beating Joe Rogan, and you are on track, according to Forbes, to beat financially mainstream media this year. I don't think so. You're not suppressed.
No. And then when she's saying, everybody told me not to drink the water, so I didn't drink the water. And then I brought my own water. And then it's like, what are you talking about? Nobody's poisoning you. This is a complete act. Her act is finally really falling apart. That's where the people who are in denial of what's really going on. It's like, can't you start to see this act is finally crumbling?
No, I hate that I feel like I've like psyoped my own algorithm because she just constantly pops up and I'm like, no, Candace, Candy Hook, leave my feed. But, it's people that do seem to think that she's on the side of truth. And I'm sorry, Erica's behavior doesn't help. Let's all be honest. Okay.
Yeah.
It feeds into it, and it's, again, this whole like persecution complex. And it's like, do I believe in transparency? Of course. Do I believe the FBI narrative? And do I think that it was like Trantifa that, killed Charlie? No, that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. Like, Kash Patel looks like he's bugging out on cocaine and he doesn't know what's going on half the time. You can trust none of these people, but I think that her whole thing with like, she's very careful with her words. It's all very calculated, where she subverts very, very carefully on a thin line, making a direct accusation because she knows what that legal sort of threshold is. I think that it's probably come under the advice of attorneys with the Macron thing, where she's being a lot more careful now. Like, and it's like, you said you had a dream. Like, she's MAGA's broke psychic. Like, she's the broke Nostradamus. Get it together. Like, it's the fact that people have taken any of this seriously is beyond me, but it's making all of these accusations. The answers that people give are never good enough. And then she just moves on to the next thing. And it's just a bigger and bigger conspiracy to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing.
Well, that's what makes me think, is it really her doing this research, or is it a research team doing the research for her and she thinks that she's being told the truth and she's actually MK Ultra'd?
All right.
It's a possibility. I mean, I know that she could damn well know that what she's doing too. It's got to be one or the other, right? It's got to be one or the other. Either she knows exactly what she's doing and she's a snake, or she thinks she's doing something good and she's being told what to do, and she has her handlers and she thinks that everything that she's doing is right. Like, that's possible too.
And you're absolutely right. That's fair. And all options should be considered until proven otherwise. I am of the opinion that she knows what she's doing. And
I think that she probably does too. But
I think that she knows a lot. I think that I think that this whole like show with her and Erica, I think that it's been nothing more than that. I think that it's been a show,
Yeah.
where we see like, okay, either you're going to buy the FBI narrative, even though there were so many witnesses, so many different camera angles, video angles, right? And it's like, there's a conversation to be had about, the behavior of some of the Turning Point people and security folks, boots on the ground that day. But you have that, and then you have the Candace side, and that has just brought out this whole new generation of grifters, which is just really crazy. And everybody's an expert now. It's fantastic. And it's become very lucrative, and I think that it's lucrative for both sides. I just don't see her being an unwitting participant, and I also don't buy that her and Erica have not had some sort of private conversation about what actually happened that day. I think that they both know.
Oh,
And I
I
think
do
that
too.
I think it's not what we're being told. And I
Yeah,
think that they're
me too.
taking everybody on a ride. And I think
Yeah.
that this like whole Turning Point thing, people can have their opinions about Charlie. Like, is he really dead? I don't know. Or is he like on a Witsec fuck shack island with Tupac and Epstein? I have no idea. God bless him wherever he is. I don't wish harm upon anybody, but it's, you know, you can have your opinions, and at the end of the day, look at how much things have changed. And that was in September. It's every day. I've never signed up for Turning Point anything, and I'm getting emails from them. And it's like, I don't want anything from you guys. You put on the news. It's on all the time, especially like Fox Media. It's just non-stop. Like, and it's just like, guys, this is all by design for some much more nefarious purpose, in my personal opinion. I think that this is all much darker than what people think, and I get that some people think that that's really crazy, but you have to look at these things in sort of like a historical context. And I'm sorry, did Jackie O go on a press tour after JFK was killed?
Yeah. Oh my God. I
Right
know.
next to her, with his
Mhm.
brains on her jacket while LBJ is being sworn in. Like, let's get real.
I know. Well, that's what makes me think, because initially I thought that my initial gut reaction was he's dead. And then a week later, I was like, I think this might be the first like major blue beam operation that we might be watching of some sort. And I'm still 50-50 on it. I really don't know. But can we go into some of the financial aspects of all of this with Turning Point? And I know like her companies are registered in Delaware, which is like a tax weird fraudy kind of thing. Like there's financial fuckery that has been going on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't have the numbers specifically off the
That's
top of my
okay.
head.
Yeah, that's
And
no problem.
I didn't go in real hard because I knew I saw like on my feed and people would be like, oh, you should watch this video. And I'm like, I don't have time. But I decided what I wanted to focus on was their Turning Points pack, right? So their political arm, because it's like, this seems to be the weaponization of what they call Christianity. I would highly disagree that Turning Point is a Christian organization. I think it's the Seven Mountain Mandate Mafia, in my opinion. But in regards to, religion and politics coming together, right? So many chapters have sprung up, and it's like, where's all this money coming from? And they have pulled in a lot of money since Charlie's death. But when I looked into it, what you see, it was the most recent donation that they had registered in the Watchdog page was in 1 month, one donation was from Turning Point Action for $500,000.
So that's dead giveaway money laundering.
Literally on his face, right there in front of you. Literally. And
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding, every month, like clockwork, so that was the biggest amount. And then I think the month before that, it was two different payments of like 100,000. And then it was always in that range, and it didn't go below, I think, like 40. $100,000. That's blatant money laundering on its face. They should be investigated for that alone. Because, yes, people can sit there and talk about, I've seen a lot of people complaining in regards to their recent AmFest that they held and this endorsing of, JD Vance being on the ticket. And it's like, well, guys, you have to look at their political arm, because the political arm provides them cover for doing that. Because as a 501c3, they are not supposed to endorse or take in money like that, right? But the type of committee that they're a carry committee, Turning Point PAC, it's a dual committee. Basically, they can do whatever the hell they want as long as they have separate bank accounts for it. That's what every explanation that I've looked up has said. And it's a lot of money that you don't know where it's going. You can see where it's coming from. And you have some individuals that are on the board of Turning Point themselves, on the security advisory board, that they have, whether it's like a family foundation or a family trust, something that is also tax exempt. They are on the board of other nonprofits as well. Well, they're taking money from their nonprofit and putting it into Turning Point PAC specifically. So again, more money laundering.
Do you think that, because my research over the past 6 months has specifically been focused on religious organizations, basically. And is it possible that this money is coming from the Mormons and the Scientologists? When you really peel back all the layers, that's what I would think. That's what I would think, because they're money laundering themselves. So it's like impossible to really trace exactly where it's coming from. And if that's the case, then I would think that it would have to be religious organizations ultimately funding this, and not just the Jews, but other religious organizations too.
Yeah, I think that there's a good argument to be made for that. There's some members that are on the board of Turning Point USA who are on the boards of other businesses that other board members are on, or on other charity boards that are in political positions or in lobbying positions, like big oil, big pharma, a lot of them out of Texas, obviously out of Arizona because that's local for them. So there's that angle, but I do also suspect that there is the Scientology and LDS or Mormon angle as well, because like you said, it's how are you really going to be able to track that, right? What if they make a silent donation, to one of these other groups, and they say, hey, well, guess what? We're going to take our share, and then we'll put the rest towards, Turning Point PAC, or, Turning Point Action, or Turning Point Faith, or Blexit, or whatever. And then we'll funnel it into Turning Point PAC. And then once it hits the PAC, you have no idea where it's going after that. You don't really know what's going on. And that's where you see, to me, the largest amount of money moving, because I had found the most accurate article that I could find by the time I had done my last presentation on it. It was, I think that they had tallied the total that Turning Point USA had received donations at in the month following Charlie's assassination was, I think it was like $120,000. So where's Turning Point Action getting that 500 grand that they're just dumping into the PAC in 1 month, and one donation in 1 month? I haven't even sat there and gone back and looked to see how much money in total, because it's well over $1 million that's coming just from other Turning Point arms itself. Turning Point is a literal octopus. And so I think that it's also interesting to consider, because Candace said it herself, John Mappin and Irina Mappin, the lone donors and closest friends of Charlie. It's curious, and I wonder, and I doubt I'll ever be able to prove it, but, how far back does his relationship go with Jeffrey Epstein? Because, John Mappin came up in, he tried to come up in Hollywood, specifically in Los Angeles. He was in like this really weird softcore porn. I don't recommend looking at the preview online, but you can see the preview online, and it's a very young John Mappin. That obviously did not work out for him. He does come from a powerful family, the Mappin and Webb Jewelers, which interestingly enough, he is a very distant cousin of George Webb, which is very odd.
Oh, that's interesting.
it's very, don't get me started. That had my Kill Bill sirens. I was like, oh, these are her two handlers. They're related. What the hell is going on?
Oh my God.
Isn't that weird? I thought
Wow.
it was so strange. Okay, I'll tell you how I figured that out. It didn't even take me doing it like much legwork. Somebody had asked George Webb where he hailed from, what Webb family he hailed from. I think that they were asking in regards to Gary Webb, and he said no, it's the Webb family from Wales, which is the Mappin and Webb jeweler dynasty. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man! Like this is
Wow.
ridiculous. Distant cousins, but cousins nonetheless. I do wonder if any of that money is dirty money from the Epstein network, and I don't look at Epstein like this boogeyman, I think that they're going to dangle these files out for as long as humanly possible. It's the proverbial carrot in front of the horse, right?
Mhm.
It just keeps you moving, keeps people distracted. And they never talk about the darker things like the AI and transhumanism and the baby farms and genetics and all
Which is
that
where our
stuff.
focus is really supposed to be. And they want it focused on this drama, this Candace and Erica Kirk drama. That's where
Yeah.
they want everybody focused because it takes us away from exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's like, guys, yeah, the photos, of course it's interesting. We're all curious, right? Like, yeah, the tea's hot. Let's serve it and drink it. Let's look. But it's again, we have to go back to, Epstein, not primarily Mossad. He's CIA. He's ours, born and bred. These intelligence agencies are notoriously incestuous. It's just the way that it is. It's always been that way. And, it's why are we not looking at what's going on with, his Zorro Ranch? Because I think it's weird that where Scientology's real money, their actual power hub, is in Trementina in New Mexico.
Rich on our platform has covered that extensively, extensively. So yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's not Clearwater like everybody says. It's
Yeah,
like, guys, that's the public face. That's the
yeah,
Walmart that they want you to see. They
yeah,
don't want you
exactly,
to see the power behind it. And it's like
exactly.
there's obviously weird stuff going on over there, right? Where is all that money going towards? They have a lot of weird technology, some stuff that they have one of two in the entire world. And it's why is John Mappin, someone who's not a dual citizen, who does not live in the United States, why is he so interested in our politics? It's
I mean, the guy, if it's him or not, I don't know, but he spends all fucking day on X commenting about Candace Owens and how it's like protecting her. It's like, are you trying to tell us that you're her handler?
people think that I'm crazy because I've been pointing this out for months. Like
It's kind of obvious, I think.
I think it is too. People are like, "Oh no, they're just really good friends," and I'm like,
No, you don't go to that
"No."
extent. I mean, I'm obviously a huge supporter of David Icke. I'm on his platform, like complete. I would never spend all day long protecting him.
Writing
Okay.
diatribes of fan fiction. Like, I mean, he writes Scientology fan fiction and he writes in Candace where she is like this sea siren and encouraging Milo to, if you read between the lines of what he's talking about, that Milo needs to audit Scientology, audit Tim Pool, and it's, Milo and Candace are on this journey and he's, comparing Milo to David Hasselhoff, like running on a beach to save Tim Pool, who's
Oh
just
my
drowning in a sea
God.
of misinformation. But it's all in like this weird Scientology language, but like I know too much about this stuff. And so I'm just like, oh God, Mappin's out here writing fan fiction about these people and he's making it Baywatch. I can't deal with it. And it's like, to me, there's the nefarious angle of the turning point, the religious stuff, but then there's also this sort of like weird LaRouchian angle where I'm just kind of like, why is the crown so worried about what we have going on? Why are they so involved in our business right now? Because it's like, sure, Candace was born here. That's fine. Like, and I don't judge people from other countries. I'm just pointing out the blatantly obvious thing that's going on right now is that it's very clear where her loyalties actually lie because she can just pack up and go home with Georgie and do whatever she's gonna do. It's like, is he a cuck? Is he banging the pool boy? I have no idea, but he hasn't told her to be quiet, and I'm shocked. So clearly he's not worried about losing any money or any of the legal ramifications.
Exactly. And that's what makes me think the whole suit with Macron might just be, it might not be 100% authentic because of that, what you just said.
I think that they are scared of that one though.
You
Because
do?
when you read through that filing, it's like they're coming for all of their businesses in Delaware. And like you said, Delaware is this really weird, I still don't understand the machinations behind it.
Delaware and Nevada are the two states that you don't have to file state income tax. And they basically take, any business, even if it's from out of state. It's easy to file your businesses in those states, even if you live in another state. But if you have something the size of Candace Owens, like probably shouldn't be doing that. That's for like people who are just getting something off the ground. Then when it's up and running and you're actually having profit, then you take it back to your real state that you're in. Like, you don't do it that way long term.
That's why I think that them including all of the businesses that are in Delaware, I think that that's really, unfavorable, because it's okay,
Yeah.
well, where are you guys hiding your wealth, right?
Yeah.
It's, where is this money going and where is it coming from? I mean, very likely it's being stored, in offshore accounts. I think that that's probably the most realistic situation. But I mean, I think it's right now, it feels like a litmus test for free speech. I think that people are going to, unfortunately, it's going to be the regular people like us, especially me. Like, I have a really small channel. I'm like a speck of nothing on the internet, It's going to be like small people like me, where we're going to be the ones that get censored.
I know.
That's what's going to
Yep.
happen. I mean, look at Alex Jones. Like, he sat there and like cried and said that the Democrats and the IRS were outside and they were going to shut
know.
InfoWars down.
Yeah, okay.
I owe them $1 billion. Da, 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 da. And then what happens? Nothing. He went on Ozempic and he bought a tanning bed. Good for him. Everybody's forgotten that he did that. And
Yeah.
it's like, you still can't talk about Sandy Hook. Why? We should be allowed to ask questions. That doesn't make you cold-hearted, heartless, anything like that. And it's the exact same thing with, Charlie Kirk. You're either completely dead inside and you're heartless, and how dare you question a grieving widow and blah, 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 or, Erica Kirk is trafficking kids out of Romania and she definitely had Charlie murdered. Like, it's
Yeah.
one or the other.
Yeah. And usually the truth is in the gray somewhere. I mean, that's,
In the middle.
yeah, it usually is. It usually is. So
I think it's somewhere in the middle.
yeah. Do you think, what do you think's going on with Candace's Catholic thing? Do you think that that's real, or do you think that that's a front, or do you think that she's more in bed with Scientology, or do you think that she's more in bed with Freemasonry, or what do you think is happening with that? Because it's weird how all of these people who are of different faiths are coming together, but it doesn't seem like they're coming together organically and just disregarding what the other person's faith is. It's almost like they're using their faith as a front for something.
Oh yeah, I agree that this is, again, like the weaponization of religion, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that they're trying to blur the lines, and people want to say New World Order, one religion is a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. You don't have to like it, but it's not a
Exactly.
conspiracy
That's
theory.
basically, yeah, it's basically what my work has been over the past 6 months, because I think in the alternative media, there hasn't been enough focus on religion and the one world religion, because I do think that that's where it's going. In fact, this past week, I think it was like a week ago, the UK police force now has to say whether they're members of Freemasonry and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it's because everybody knows about Freemasonry now. And behind the scenes, all of these groups are coming together to create the one world religion, including the Freemasons, that if one group looks bad, it doesn't matter because it's morphing into something else.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that as far as Candace goes, I would say that Catholicism tracks with, the royal family, with the House of Lords. I think that that stands with tradition. I think it's odd that one of the very few tweets, one out of two, that John Mappin has deleted that I've seen was when I challenged him because, he wrote this comment. It was obviously a long-winded comment, as they all are from him, where he said that Candace helped him become a better Scientologist by teaching him about Catholicism. And because he's a Christian Scientologist, this is what he's pushing, which these things don't comport if you know anything about Scientology.
Exactly.
I don't like it. He's trying to normalize the term, and I'm like, stop trying to
Well,
make
it's
Christian
it's
Scientologists happen.
normalizing morphing things together, which is exactly what the one world religion is.
Yeah, he's trying to blur the lines. And I said, did you help Candace become a better Catholic by teaching her about Scientology? Because that should work both ways, according to what you're saying. And I said, and also, why are you trying to convince the public that Christianity, whatever you would refer to that as, and Scientology comport? Because you and I both know intellectually that they do not. And
Mhm.
there's I think that she's in bed with Scientology. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that, we see a very long history with the church in regards to Alex Jones. And I think that's why, Alex Jones hasn't really hit on that angle with Mappin, because that would be very easy, right? Because again, it's very obvious if you're just looking at Mappin's behavior on the internet, very clear that that's her handler, right? And like X is basically Alex Jones's primary platform now. That would be an easy low blow. And again, even Nick Fuentes, him asking her about the Scientology angle, she refuses to touch it. She just wants to talk about, anything but Scientology. She will not address it, let alone like, I've given up on the whole like Epstein black book stuff. Like, if she'll
Hmm.
just address Scientology, but I don't think that she's allowed to. I don't think
Hmm.
that she's allowed to publicly because, people think for part of the reason why they think this, in my opinion, is because of the propaganda campaign that started on, I think it was A&E or the Learning Channel with Leah Remini and Scientology, The Aftermath, where, they painted it as sort of like this kooky cult that might separate you from your family and they're going to steal your money. And there's this influencer scene on YouTube of ex-Scientologists who say that, Scientology's numbers are dwindling and, they base this off of empty buildings that Scientology owns allegedly. But, in reality, I don't see anything to support that. I think that Scientology is more powerful than they've ever been. And I think that cults do what cults have always done is they go underground once it
Yep.
becomes not couture to be a member. It has not been
Yep.
couture to be a Scientologist for a long time. It used to be a sign of wealth and a sign of celebrity status. And, David Miscavige's Pony Boy, Tom Cruise kind of ruined that, freaking out on Oprah's couch, right? It's kind of been downhill from there. And so, do I think that there's a very good likelihood that, her and George have probably been audited, which, in my opinion, once you've been audited, you're a Scientologist. Once you hold on to the cans, that's it. Because a lot of people don't understand this because it's not talked about and because it's not regulated. But those cans, the e-meter, there are small voltages of electroconvulsive therapy that are going through that. They're very small, but it is going through you. And so that is changing your brain chemistry as you're being audited, basically interrogated while you're holding onto these cans, right? And that's these feelings that these people get. It's not a simple lie detector test like everybody likes to say. Do I think that there's a likelihood that they've been audited? I mean, yeah, it's how many times did she actually go and hang out with the Mappins, with George? Now her and now her and John are saying that, you know, they met at the Turning Point UK event, all of that with George, and then they didn't see each other for years. And it's like, you guys are all just trying to rewrite the story because people are noticing the holes in it. Because she paints it as I laid eyes on George and I knew it was love at first sight. Well, George tells a very different story. He tells the story in 2022 where he's on, I think it's Veritas Aquinas podcast, and he says that things were not romantic between them at all. they were just FaceTiming, just talking about politics, history, you know, the stuff that they're into. And then he called her one day and he said, "Do you want to get married?" That sounds like an arranged marriage to me.
Yeah, you don't go from one extreme to the other. You would at least include into the story, I was obviously interested in her. I was holding back and refraining or whatever, but like to go from that extreme to the next, I don't know.
Yeah, he had no romance in it. He literally said there was nothing romantic. There was no romantic interest. And I'm like, well, thank you for removing the question from anybody's mind, George. Thank you for at least clarifying that. I appreciate it. And so it's like, is she a beard? Maybe. I don't know. Because, you know,
Yeah.
I also don't throw out everything that Milo says. Like, I remember Milo from 2015, okay? Like, he's not always wrong, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that what happened to him is kind of sus. And so I watched him when he went on Tim Pool, and you know, he was saying some crazy things. He's obviously a huge Candace simp. But, you know, I mean, he's made claims in the past that George is gay, that he's seen George do what Candace would say is some faking gay stuff. I've been saying it longer than her by 2 years, but I'm not going to throw a pity party over that. However, you know, it's him saying that. It's also him saying, you know, there's rumors that Erica and Charlie were going to get divorced, that, you know, Charlie was into that. And it's like, well, we know that these things were going on at these CPAC conventions. That's why, you know, the short lived time that I watched Alex Jones, it was because of that Ali Alexander stuff with those, you know, allegedly underage or young boys that they were trying to get at these CPAC conventions. And when Alex Jones didn't take him off of his website, I just said, okay, like, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give my time or money. Like, not that I give him money, but, you know, your time is money. And so, like, I'm not going to give you watch time. That was something that was not even that long ago. I mean, what? That was like 2022, 2021, you know? I think that a broken clock can be right twice a day. I think that a lot of these people have a lot to gain. I don't view Candace as a truth seeker, and I
No.
certainly do not view her with any sort of cloak of persecution. She's making her bed. Unfortunately, we're going to be the ones that have to lay in it, and that's what sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're exposing exactly what we're exposing because we don't want to lay in it. You know,
No, yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's just,
I'm not laying in it, and that's why I brought you on the show because I'm like, we gotta air this shit out because anybody who's on the fence needs to see this. And I don't like getting caught up in the drama. I'm sort of a big picture person. I don't even really focus that much on individuals. But that's why I love bringing people like you on who do. Because it can be like I know you're even like, I'm over this. I'm over researching this stuff. I don't want to really continue it. But it has to be said. Like it has to be said. I mean, people need to know who's who now. And I think it's becoming increasingly more obvious who is who and who is real. And listen, nobody's past is perfect, but be honest about it. You know what I mean? I've been honest about my crazy past with my audience. You have to be honest about it because if you're not, somebody's going to find out.
exactly. I agree. And it's, you know, I don't like the drama either. It definitely feels like the definition of a psyop in real time, and it's
Yeah.
been quite frustrating. But,
Yeah.
you know, it was when I started looking, it was like,
Mhm.
well, this is weird, and I don't see anybody else talking about it. And hey, Candace, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You want to sit there and, you know, demand everybody else's family history and all of this crazy
Exactly.
stuff and everybody else's past. And it's like, well, I've proven who your dad is. I say it with confidence and I say it factually. It's not alleged. Her dad was the supervisor of contracts during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. The fact that this is not something that her audience is pressing her on is, I don't know, it's just beyond me, especially
Me
because you
too.
do see a lot of people that they have where it's this tribalism sort of thing where it's like, I used to love Alex Jones, but he's going off on Candace, and I'm like, if you only knew who her dad was, like,
And that
get
they actually
real.
have a freaking link, an old link to one another.
Yeah.
Norm Pattis.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, that guy, I mean, the case that he made his name on was this man who was in prison and should have rotted in prison for the kidnapping, sexual assault, violent, and murder of I think she was a 15-year-old Polish girl. But he tried to escape the jail and he stabbed a guard, beat up a bunch of other guards, and Norman Pattis represented him, and he successfully sued the prison for damages. He won millions of dollars in that suit. And it's like, that's where that guy made his name from. So I'm pretty sure that her dad knew who he was, right? Like, he was a kind of a bigwig sort of lawyer in Connecticut, right? And then I just don't think it's happenstance that he gets involved in the InfoWars Alex Jones lawsuit. It's like, there's only so many things that I am willing to sort of like turn a blind eye to. And like you said, it's nobody else was talking about it. And I'm like, well, I'm either going to get my channel nuked for uttering the word Sandy Hook, or her fans are going to come in and go completely nuts. And it's been the latter, which is fine. But, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance. And I think that's where I'm really jaded, just because I've been on the receiving end of, hey, like, I'm literally showing you her entire family.
You just have to block it out, because in the end they're going to see the truth. They will. They're going to see that you were right, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Just hold on to those golden nuggets of people who have your back and see that you're doing the right thing. They'll keep you going, because I know it sucks. It sucks having people attack you for doing the right thing, but that's what you got to keep doing.
The truth is the truth. And it's like, y'all want to sit there and give her and even her friend who alleges that he saw all these things happen at, the super secret army base or military base. You want to give them all your money and all your trust. And it's like, I've literally just provided. I'll take some money, Candace. I just did your entire family
I can't believe
tree.
that anybody pays to watch. Like, they're giving her the super chat money, like, after knowing how many sponsors she has, after being sponsored by Oracle. Like, she's making millions and millions of dollars, and you're giving her $20 of your own hard-earned money. What are you doing?
Well, do you want to know I know we're not going to go for too much longer.
Yeah.
You want to know my super anointed conspiracy theory about that?
Go.
So she presents her shows as if she's live, right? But when you watch her reading her ads, she's wearing the same outfit. Those ads are pre-recorded. She's not live on YouTube. They've figured out a way to mirror it where it looks like she's streaming, but it would be like if I went live and I was just showing a video, right? So I think that there's a very good likelihood that she's probably recording it either late at night or like in the morning. And that's why when she does read the few things that I've seen, like at the end where she's like, oh, super chats from last night. She's saying last night for a reason. It's because of that. I think that because I've watched in some of her streams, you were right about the ad reads. At a bare minimum, the low end, according to Forbes, she's getting $25,000 per ad read. She's doing at least 4 or 5. The max she's getting per ad read is 150. If she's going live 5 days a week, you do the math. That adds up really quick. But with these super chats, I've seen in one show her getting upwards of like $50,000 to $60,000 in super chats. I think that there is money laundering going on through those super chats, because this is something I've kept track of in other communities where they do weird fundraisers and stuff online. But I mean, YouTube takes 30% off the top, so your money's clean as soon as you hit send, right?
That's true. That is so true. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's a great way to wash money. I think that that's what's going on with her, because she's getting a lot of money in super chats and she's not live.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, where do you think that this is all going in 2026? Like, you and I are sitting here having this conversation. We can kind of see through the bullshit. And I think more people are starting to see it, not as many as we would like. But where do you see this year going with this fraudulent conservative movement and the fraudulent arguing amongst people like Erica Kirk and Candace Owens? Where do you see this all going?
Where would I like to see it go? Pay-per-view catfight, weed getting pulled out, all of that. I would pay for that. Absolutely. They could have my money. I think ultimately the most important thing for people to keep in mind, because this is what's ultimately going on in the background, is there's a very young man that is about to be railroaded by the state of Utah, with the full force of the federal government. And this is yet another, I hate to overuse the term litmus test, but there have been other notorious recent true crime cases, and technically, an assassination does fall under the umbrella of true crime. It is a crime where we are now, years later, getting information that what we were told and the people that were convicted, that it was a complete lie. A great example is the Idaho 4 case, Brian Kohlberger. We now have the audio where you can hear the crimes are beginning at least 2 hours roughly before the state's official timeline. Brian Kohlberger wasn't there, but you hear a lot of other individuals there, and you actually hear those kids getting murdered. And so I think the important thing to keep in mind is that, this information is coming out now, and we're not hearing a peep about this stuff, which is very concerning because, he's 23. I don't know how old Tyler Robinson is. He seems pretty young. He's young to me. It's, there's a very real cost behind all of this, and it's, if they can do it to them, they can do it to anybody. They can do it to me. They can do it to you. And I think that people need to, where it is going to go. I mean, I don't like to be a black pillar or a doom pillar. I don't think that that's healthy. I like to generally hold on to the hope that most of the world's people are good. I hope that justice, whatever that looks like, is brought forward. I think that we need that. I think we need a lot of transparency. I don't really know that we're going to get it. This kind of feels like one of the final stages of the technocracy, or like the technocratic elite sort of coming in. And it's, the weaponization of things like, Palantir and stuff like that. I would highly encourage people, stop reacting so emotionally to these influencers, because that's all they are. They're nothing more than that. I view Erica as an influencer. I view Candace as an influencer, basically like a mainstream media pundit. I view them as the same thing. If you turn on the TV, you don't get to sit there and chastise your boomer parents for watching Fox News if you're sitting there listening to Candace Owens. Okay. Like, it's two sides of the same coin. I think that people should start thinking bigger picture, outside of the box. What kind of ramifications does it have if we start holding technically private citizens, who are involved in the board of, at the end of the day, a nonprofit that seems to be way more powerful than it should be. The word demanding metadata and things like that. It's like, guys, they're going to turn this on you. These people don't care about you. They don't care about any of us. We are the carbon that they want to reduce. It's all propaganda. Protect your minds, protect your hearts. The cult of personality is very real. I truly hope that there is some justice in the court with Tyler Robinson. I really, really, I pray for that, because I don't believe that he's guilty. Obviously, I have no inside baseball knowledge. It's just none of that really makes sense with what we see with our own eyes, our faulty human eyes. It's very obvious that that's not what happened. And I just don't like that these precedents have been set and the media remains silent about these young people that are being sent away for life. And even if the cases are overturned someday, they're still guilty in the court of public opinion to the majority, right? So they're still going to have to live that punishment. But I think that there does need to be justice, and I don't think that Candace or Erica are doing anything to make that happen.
I don't either, but you are at least doing your best. I am at least trying to. But keep up the great work. I mean, I know you don't really want to continue down the Candace Owens, or what do you call her? Candy Hook?
Yeah, Candy Hook.
Candy Hook. You don't want to continue down the Candy Hook rabbit hole, but I do think it's important for, even if you really don't want to go much further into it, I think it's important to get your work out there about this now. And I'll help in any way that I can to get your message across, because if this spreads, like ripples out now, then it just gets people closer to the truth, and hopefully gets them vibrationally more sound into looking back and looking at themselves and going, oh, my radar was wrong about that. You know, I was actually a fan of Candace Owens in 2020, 2021. By 2022, I was starting to kind of catch on to things, but it's okay to look back and say I was wrong, you know, and hopefully that's what your work will do.
I think change and growth is the most healthy sign of being human that you can have, is being open to taking in new information. And I definitely appreciate your kind words. I'm always keeping an eye on her because of the mapping thing. Scientology is always kind of like in my peer view, and so I'm
That's
always
good.
looking. But
yeah, that's good, because like I said, I mean, I mean, I'm not just saying it, I really was one of the first people to talk about the Mormon connection to Charlie Kirk. It was obvious to me. No, and knowing how big of Zionists they are too. And then it was just like one thing after the next. But it's good to have, I think it's good to have our tentacles in the religious aspects of all of this, because I think they want us focused on the politics when the religious aspect is just as important, if not maybe even more, because the money, because of the money laundering aspect of it all. Too.
Well, and I also think it's, you know, the great deceit. It's the immense deceit, you know. My belief system, the first thing that I believe is that God makes us all with free will. So you're allowed to believe whatever you like. I don't tell people what to believe. However, you know, I do have a problem with a group that's presenting they're presenting a false doctrine. You know, you've got to look like, granted, I think that Candace jacked my stuff because I talked about it a week before her in regards to the McCoy thing. However, you know, it's this Seven Mountain Mandate stuff and this dominionism, and Trump is, you know, knocking down the 7 pillars of culture, as Charlie said numerous times. There's no separation of church and state. It's like, yes, there is. Yes, there is a separation of church and state for a reason. But, you know, they got Charlie to flip on that. I think that the religious part, not only the money laundering, because obviously that has, you know, that ripple effect on all of us economically, and we're already in such a bad spot, but also it's people's belief systems are being messed with, and people need to understand that whatever you believe in, study it for yourself. Don't listen to these people, because you don't know if they're lying to you and what their motivations are, and you probably won't know for a very long time, and they have no reason to disclose it to you.
Yep. Well, this conversation was awesome. I'd love to have you back really soon. So keep me posted on your research and updates, and I will help you however I can.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.